What a treat it is for me to be here with you this morning to talk about this concept of trust and what I call the speed of trust. So look at those first two big ideas. There's an economic case for trust. There's a leadership case for trust. Answering the question why. If you buy the why, you then want to move into the how. And that's the third big idea, which is this, that trust is a learnable skill. Speed happens when people trust each other. And when you're trusted, speed will happen with you. Nothing is as fast as the speed of trust.
So hello viewers, today I'm in chat with Mr. Stephen M.R. Covey, who is one of world's leading trainer, speaker and best-selling author. He has written amazing books, Spirit of Trust and Trust and Inspire, and many more books upon leadership and all. And his father is a great person, right? And you might knowing him through his book, because his father has written this book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is, I guess, it is a life-changing book because it has changed a lot of things in my life. So to begin with, thank you, Stephen, sir, for joining us today on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald. I'm excited to be with you. Thank you.
And sir, I just want to know, out of curiosity, that how has your journey been as a speaker? And actually, you saw your dad in front because you are his son, right? So tell me something about your dad, that how he used to work and at what time he wrote this book, right? So, and actually, did you get inspiration from your dad to write your own books called Trust and Inspire, or what happened exactly? What triggered you to be an special author?
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate, very blessed to have such an amazing father in my dad, and he was a great example, really, of what I write about in Trust and Inspire. I saw it in my dad, how he raised me. He was a Trust and Inspire parent. And he raised me, and he helped me see my potential. He helped me become it, and that's real leadership: is seeing people's worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. My father did that with me, and what I would say about my father, Ronak, is that he was who you thought he was. He was the same person in private as he was in public, and maybe even better. I like to say this, that as good as my father was in public as an author and as a teacher, and he was very, very good, he was even better in private. Our was his integrity, that he believed what he taught, and he lived what he taught. And there was a power to that. So yes, I learned from him, and Trust and Inspire is a book that was inspired by my father, by the way that he led me as a child and as a young man and as an adult. And I realized that there's a better way to lead people in a way that believes in them, that sees the potential, the greatness inside of them, that helps them come to see it in themselves, and that unleashes that greatness. And I saw that in my father, and I realized that we need this in our world. We need to solve the problems that are out there, and there's so much capacity inside of people, and yet we're not tapping into it enough. We're not unleashing it enough. It was Mahatma Gandhi who said, the difference between what we are doing and what we are capable of doing would solve most of the world's problems. So we've got to close that gap between our potential and our current performance. And that's a leadership opportunity to try to close that gap. How we lead matters to unleash the potential that's inside of people to close that gap.
That is very inspiring, sir. And I can see love in your eyes about for your father, and the kind of work you do with lot of problems. You have a busy schedule, and even despite that schedule, you have taken out time for this podcast just because so that we can spread positivity, we can spread practical knowledge and practical styles of leadership and all whatever you have learned from your father, from your experience, from your efforts, right? So it is really great to have your kind of guest on show who has really achieved and literally a source of inspiration for plenty of people who actually loves you, and your book has been sold 2 million, right? Speed of Trust. So tell me something
Yes,
about that book, that I mean, how did you write that book, and what is that book about, and why should people read us?
yes. So my first book, The Speed of Trust, it's all about why trust matters, that trust is truly the one thing that changes everything. It's not just a soft social virtue. It is that, but it's also an economic driver. It affects the speed of everything and the cost of everything. And when trust goes down in a relationship, speed goes down and cost goes up. And that is a tax. It's a low trust tax. But when trust goes up in a relationship, on a team, in a culture,
Mhm.
the speed goes up with it. You can do everything faster. The cost comes down. It costs you less. And that is a dividend, a high trust dividend. So trust changes everything. That's the why. So the Speed of Trust addresses the why. Why trust? That this is an economic driver, that this is a performance multiplier, that trust is an accelerator, that trust is an energizer. That's the why. So the first part of the book is why trust matters, because it's the one thing that changes everything. And the second half of the book is how we build trust intentionally. That trust is a learnable skill. It's something we can build on purpose through our credibility, our character, and our competence, and through our behavior. We can behave our way into greater trust, just like you can behave your way out of trust. You can lose trust through your behavior, but you can also grow it, expand it, extend it, build it through your behavior. And so in the book, I identify the highest leverage behaviors. They help us grow trust. And I try to give people a framework so they can think about trust, a language, a common language, so we can talk about trust. It's often hard to talk about trust. I give people a language to do so, and then a process of how we can build trust on purpose through our credibility and through our behavior. And so those are the two components of the book. Why trust matters, how to build it. Trust is the one thing that changes everything in our relationships, in our lives, in our organizations.
Right.
And trust is a learnable skill that we can build from the inside out, starting with ourselves, through our credibility and through our behavior. And so I try to make it really practical and tangible and actionable for people. That's the speed of trust.
Right. You have written a very practical book, sir, because I have seen a lot of authors who write book as per the demand of readers, that what a reader want to be written, and you are the author who actually think what is important, what is crucial, what is imperative for leaders, for students, for any kind of individual who belongs to any specific domain. You write what you feel, what you have observed, and actually based upon your own experience, and your own business and all company. But you are a different author, sir, because your family, family background is actually kind of this, because your father has been author, you are a wonderful author, and you have met, like you have mentioned about Ron Kaufman. When I interviewed him, he has also written a book called Uplifting Service, right? So your circle is also very kind of author kind of thing, and very, and all are very successful. So I just want you to tell me, something, that if somebody wants to be author, then what approach he should keep in his mind to be a wonderful author, that what kind of book he should write? Should he research the actually the market, that what kind of book people need, or he should not research, he just write what he wants, and actually what he is good at? So what do you think about
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of all of that. I think it's trying to overlap four things. First, you look at, yes, what are the needs out there? So you do look at the market, you look at needs, and that matters because we want to because we want to address needs. But there's needs everywhere. There's needs for greater leadership, better leadership. There's needs for building trust, which is the path I pursued. There's needs for collaboration, for innovation, for teamwork, and for leading change, for executing strategy. I could go on and on and on. There's a lot of needs. So you do look at needs, but there's a lot of needs. So then you want to then go into, what are you good at? And what do you know a lot about? Where do you have expertise? Because if you write about something that you don't know about or you're not an expert on, you probably won't have sufficient insight to attract a lot of word of mouth readers if you're not an expert yourself. So developing deep expertise in an area that meets a need. And becoming good at that. And so for me, I felt like trust. I wanted to become an expert on trust. And I've done this for over 20 years now, for maybe 25 years that I've been focused on trust, such that it's my life work, but it's also something that I've earned the insights. I've worked for it. I've studied it. I've worked with people about this, and I've read about it, and I've learned, and I've done research, and I've really became an expert on trust. So that the first thing, what needs are out there? And there's a lot of needs. Second, what am I good at? Where do I have deep expertise? Then there's a third piece we're overlapping. And that is, what am I passionate about? So I might have expertise in a couple of areas. What do I feel passionate about? Because passion matters, and you want to give your greatest energy to what you're passionate about. But I could be passionate about something that I don't have any expertise on. So by itself, it's insufficient. But I could have expertise in a couple of areas. What am I most passionate about? So the passion matters. That's my heart. See, in a sense, this is the whole person. The body is the need. What I'm good at is the mind. Then the passion is the heart. And the fourth thing is, what do I feel called to do? That's the spirit. What do I feel called to do? What does my conscience tell me I should work on? That sense of calling. And so for me, I actually started with the sense of calling first. And I said, I feel that there's a need for greater trust in our world. And that I felt a sense of calling to that, a sense of stewardship. As my conscience says, this is something that you know a little bit about. You care a lot about. There's a great need for this. You should do this, Stephen. I felt that. And it took me, that came, I would say both over several years. I'd been kind of wrestling, thinking about this, thinking I should write a book on trust. I've been thinking about it for years. So it came over time, but it also came in another situation immediately where I had a very strong impression that I need to do the book on trust I've been thinking about. So the calling, the sense of calling, that's my spirit, my conscience. Then I said, look, there's a need for trust. That's the body, the need. And I feel passionate about this. I've been thinking about it, working on it for a number of years, thinking about it. And then I really went to work to develop the expertise. I had some natural expertise that came from my upbringing with my father, who believed in trust and taught me. But then I went and I also had done some work with my father. So I did work with trust, and I liked it. I loved it. Then I went deep into it. So I tried to overlap those four things: what the world needs, what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, and what I feel called to do. I think if you can do that, that could be a great book. Now, maybe that's a lot of things to ask, but you need at some level, some alignment with that. Then I think that there's a great book inside of people if they follow that process. But it will require a lot of hard work, a lot of self-reflection. But I think it could be worth it.
Yeah, definitely, and it actually makes sense because you have interpreted four very integral things. and intuition is one of them, that people should follow their intuition, that yeah, I should do this, I should follow my intuition, and what actually
Yeah.
coming from their inner voice, right? So
Your inner voice, intuition, conscience, whatever you might call it.
yeah.
Yes.
And Stephen sir, I'd like to know one thing from you, that what kind of mindset should a leader have? That a lot of leaders think, they think that if a leader has thousands of vocab, like synonyms of words, then he can be a good communicator. A leader thinks, if I will have a wonderful outfit, I can dominate others. So what do you think? I mean, does these things matter, or communication is literally different from the people who think that vocabulary or English or any kind of language matters? Or what is, and what should be the integral thing which people should carry in their mind while communicating, while having a deal, while asking for
Yeah.
something? So what do you think for a leader is very crucial?
Yeah. Here's what I think. I think those things you mentioned uh, matter a little. The communication clearly matters. Your style clearly matters. But to me, it doesn't, that's not the most important thing. That's a bonus. That's a add-on.
Right.
It's like the iceberg. There's the tip of the iceberg. And the greater mass of the iceberg, 90% plus, is below the surface. You don't see. I think the 90% that's below the surface for leadership is all around character and around service and around contribution, around making a difference, around connecting with people through caring, through a sense of belonging, and then connecting people to purpose and to meaning and to contribution. That matters most. And then above, that's the greater mass beneath the surface. And then the tip of the iceberg is your technique and your skills and your style and some of those things. They matter some. What matters more is that I'm seeking to contribute to the world. I like to say, seek to bless, not to impress.
Right.
I'm trying to make a difference. I'm trying to matter. And that I focus on my character, my integrity, my intent. I focus on my competence, my capabilities, my results. Collectively, this is my credibility. I'm credible. I'm trustworthy. I model the behavior. I model the behavior I would like to see. I go first in modeling it. Leaders go first. This is all vital to start with that. And then the purpose of my leadership is around service. It's putting service above self-interest. And so I'm trying to bring out the best in others. A measure of a leader is how many leaders am I creating? It's not about me being on a pedestal and people saying, oh, what a leader. It's about them, about others, about trusting them, about inspiring them, about unleashing them and helping them to become the best version of themselves. But I model it by becoming the best version of myself, not for me and my self-aggrandizement, but rather to have a platform in which I can unleash others and bring out the best in them. Leadership is always about others, not about ourselves, except for us being a model of the kind of leadership we would like to see.
Right.
And so that is, I think, where you start. And so I think it starts with the mindset, the fundamental belief of seeing the greatness that's inside of people. So I say this, your first fundamental belief is a trust and inspire leader. I write about this in my new book, Trust and Inspire. I say that people have greatness inside of them. I believe that. See, I believe that people have greatness inside of them. So if I buy that belief, my job as a leader is to unleash their potential, not to try to contain or control them.
Right.
I see the potential. I try to unleash it. That's the first starting point for me as a leader, as opposed to trying to make myself look good or trying to be impressive to others because of my skills or my style. Look, I'm not against important skills and important style, and everyone would have their own uniqueness.
Right.
That's fine. But do that on the foundation of credibility, of character, and of competence. Then those skills are more meaningful, and they're not just techniques to manipulate people. Instead, they're part of an extension of who you are to inspire people.
And sir, you have mentioned very integral thing, which is authenticity. That authenticity plays a very massive role, right, in leadership. And a few days back, Stephen sir, I hosted Lou Adler. You know him?
I don't know him personally, but I know who he is. Yes.
Yeah, he is a human resource speaker or author, right? And he was mentioning
Yes.
that I met Stephen, Covey sir, when he was alive, and actually I met him. I shared a stage with him, and when I asked that Adler sir, how a leader should cope up with or handle or tackle internal conflicts in team management, in teams basically, then he said, you better ask this question to Stephen M.R. Covey, because he is a leadership speaker, and he can answer it very well in different way and in very practical way. Then I said, surely I will ask him. Right.
Well, I appreciate that. That's kind of him.
Mm.
Yeah. So let me give us a thought to that, that when there's differences and sometimes even conflicts,
Mm.
they often arise from different perspectives, different viewpoints, different ways of interpreting and seeing the world.
Right.
And there's two choices. One is that those conflicts can separate us, sometimes even divide us, where someone tries to prevail over the other. My way is better than your way. I see it right, you see it wrong. And, there's our ego sometimes can drive us towards that hey, my way is better. But we lose, when we do that, we don't see the possibility of maybe that there's something that we don't see that they do. And that maybe together our differences could actually be a strength.
Right.
Instead of a weakness that divides and separates, it could be a strength that could ultimately create something better, that we could be creative with it. We could be innovative, where our differences coming together could be 1 + 1 equaling 3 or 5 or 10, because we're synergistic together. And so the key, though, for differences to be seen as strengths and not as suspicious or divisive is trust. That when we can build trust first with each other and seek to understand another, and by the way, understanding does not necessarily mean agreeing. You might disagree, but you're just trying to understand another first. You build that understanding, even if you don't agree. You show respect for that understanding. Then the person feels heard, valued, respected, listened to. Then they become more open to listening to you. They reciprocate what you just did for them, they do for you, and they want to hear you out. And then you share your viewpoint, and because they felt heard, they listen now to you, and they try to understand you. Then suddenly you might see the world differently, but you learn you can trust each other. You can respect each other. Then you try to create third alternative solutions. Not my way, not your way, but our way, a better way. Are there ways that we can bring the way I should view the world with the way you view the world, and have this become a healthy difference and a healthy, even conflict sometimes, that can become synergistic and creative and innovative, because that's where innovation flourishes. In fact, it was Robert Porter Lynch. He's an innovation specialist, and he said this: innovation flourishes when there's a collision of differences in an environment of trust. So those differences, they could be divisive, they could be creative and innovative. The key is trust. When there's low trust, those differences are divisive. Right. And it's conflict, and it's unhealthy conflict. When there's high trust, those differences can become the source of creativity and innovation. It can become a healthy conflict that becomes useful and valuable to create something new. Trust is the key to turn this from unhealthy to healthy and innovative and creative.
Stephen sir, it's been 15 to 20 minutes while talking to you. I have heard 20 plus times trust. So I guess it is your favorite word. If somebody will ask you that, what is your favorite word, you'd say trust, if I'm not wrong, right? So
yeah, my favorite. Yeah, could you repeat that, Ronak?
Actually, if somebody will ask you that, Stephen, what is your favorite word, then you would probably say trust. Because
I would say trust. I would say trust. But let me give a further definition of it. Trust, in a sense, is the outcome. It's the noun. It's what we try to create. Trust. And so I want to create a high trust team, a high trust relationship, a high trust culture. Trust is the outcome I want. To get that, we need to be trustworthy. And we earn that. We earn our trustworthiness by demonstrating our character and
Correct.
demonstrating our competence. That makes us trustworthy. But it's not enough to merely be trustworthy in order to have trust. Because consider this. You could have two trustworthy people working together, and yet no trust between them, even though they're both trustworthy, if neither person is willing to extend trust to the other, to give trust. So there's a third word I want to use now. Not only in order to create trust, that's the first word. Yes, we need to be trustworthy. That's the second word. We earn trustworthiness, but we also need to be trusting. Trusting. That's the third word. We give that. Trust is both earned and given. And so trustworthiness times trusting equals trust.
Right.
That way I took trust and I broke it into three pieces. Trust the outcome, what we're seeking. How do we get it? By being trustworthy, we earn that. And by being trusting, we give that. And trust is both earned and given. We need to be both trustworthy and trusting. And I find in building trust that sometimes the issue is that people aren't trustworthy enough. And other times the issue is that people aren't trusting enough. And we need both to create trust.
I would say you are a strategy master, sir, because the way you explain and the way you actually interpret or elaborate, very intricate things into simple strategies like 4 points trust. I read a quotation few days back. It was like, when you lose your money, you lose nothing. When you lose your time, you lose something. But when you lose your character, you lose everything.
That's a
And that
beautiful
is a
expression.
special quote.
It really is. That the greatest thing we have
Character.
is our character. It's our credibility. It's who we are. And that's why how we do what we do matters.
Right.
Because someone could maybe achieve great results and accomplishments, but do it in a way that diminishes people and that violates ethics and cuts corners and maybe it violates integrity. And so, yeah, maybe they achieve something and they achieve some level of greatness, but that's really just a secondary greatness. The character, how they achieved it, the integrity, the intent, the authenticity, as you said, matters too. And that's, you don't ever want to lose that because that goes with you. That precedes you.
Right.
It goes in front of you. And when that is strong, when your reputation receives you, and your reputation is aligned with actually who you are. So they're aligned. That you are who you say you are, and you're a person of character. That's maybe the greatest thing that could be said of us, because I can trust such a person. And to be trusted is the most important thing. It's more important to be trusted than to be loved or even admired, to be trusted. And so primary greatness is more important than even secondary greatness, achievements, accomplishments. I'm in favor of all those things, but never at the expense of primary greatness. So how we do what we do matters, and being true to ourselves, to our values.
Right.
And that matters enormously. And that's the most important thing.
So you have shared very practical, advices, and it is very practical. You actually, I have noticed, you have a wonderful communication skill, because I was reading this book, The 7 Habits of, a quotation written which is, leaders don't do different things, they do things differently. and you are a motivational speaker, wonderful author, and you have over 25-year plus experience, and you have been doing. There are a lot of speakers, across the world. There are thousands of speakers, but you are also a speaker. But you are something which is which who people love, and you wrote very practical things in your book, and it is very wonderful, sir. And tell me something about communication skill, that how communication skill plays a pivotal role in public speaking, and how a public
Yes.
speaker should work upon his communication skill, right?
Yes. Yes, I do think communication skills matter. And I think if you always start with the audience in mind and with the needs of the audience in mind, so that I'm relevant to what would help them rather than starting with what's in my head. If I'm just trying to just tell people about things, but I don't start with them. I begin with the end in mind. My father taught. That's habit 2 in the 7 habits. Begin with the end in mind. So I'm thinking of those that I'm communicating with.
Right.
What matters to them? What's important to them? What would help them? So I start with that empathy, understanding of the audience and of their needs. I always start with needs. Then I come back to, okay, what do I know and what am I good at that could help meet those needs? And my whole motive then becomes that I want to take my insight and my knowledge and meet needs. And then the motive behind my communication, so I think the motive matters, is that I'm not trying to impress people by being this exciting or motivating
Right.
speaker that gets all the glory and the credit, the sage on the stage. Instead, my motive is to serve, to meet those needs, to bless. That's why I use the expression as a communicator and as an influencer, as a speaker.
Yeah.
My motive is this: seek to bless, not to impress.
Right.
And that keeps me that's the greater mass of the iceberg beneath the surface that I'm trying to serve, as opposed to techniques and the like that's above the surface. That does matter. So to a great communicator out there, I think that matters. And, but I say the most important thing though is service. Start with trying to bless people. That's my motive. And take what I'm good at with what could be helpful to them, their needs. I start with their needs. I try to meet those needs. That, I think, is effective communication. I also say the more trusted you are, the more effective you'll be as a communicator. Because in a sense, technique is the tip of the iceberg. Trust is the greater mass beneath the iceberg. And when the trust is high, then people believe what I'm saying because they trust me. And I'm more effective at saying it. When the trust is low, if the trust is low with the audience, if I'm not credible with them, or if I've done things to violate their trust, I could be a very skilled communicator, but I'll go in, I'll communicate these things. They're not going to believe me because they'll see me as inauthentic. They'll see me as saying one thing, but doing another. And there's not authenticity to that. There's not a power to that. But that's why it's not either or, it's and. But I'm saying the sequence matters. Start with your beneath the surface, your character, your integrity, your intent to serve, to bless, your authenticity, being true to who you are, and then your expertise. That's part of who you are. And then focus on becoming more skillful of how to manage a classroom or how to present to a team and how to bring humor into it or how to bring, stories into it, becoming a good storyteller. All those things do matter.
Right.
And there are people that are much better at that than me that would tell you how those things matter. And I say, yes, 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 yes. I agree. And be authentic, be a person of character and seek to bless as opposed to impress. And you'll actually succeed even more. So I don't like to be called a, quote, motivational speaker, because I think motivation is about trying to move people, but sometimes artificially. I prefer if someone says that I'm an inspirational speaker, because inspire assumes that there's something inside of people. And rather than moving them maybe artificially. I'm just trying to light the fire that's already within them. But I'm trying to light that fire. It's in them already. I believe that it's in them. And if I can light that fire, that could inspire them. To inspire comes from the Latin word inspirare. It means to breathe life into. So by inspiring, I'm trying to breathe life into relationships, into teams, into cultures. And that is what people want. They don't want to be managed. People don't want to be managed. People
Right.
do want to be led, and they want to be trusted. They want to be inspired. So that's what I would say on communication, that both are vital. The greater mass beneath the surface, the iceberg, is our character, our intent to bless, to serve, and our expertise of who we are. And then the technique and the skills are above the surface. They also matter, but they matter even more when our character is right and when we are authentic as
Right.
to who we are.
And sir, you are telling actually the right thing at right time, because you are saying, character is very integral, and from character, intention comes. If I have a good character, then I can have a good intention, a right intention towards doing the work, right? Because if I have a bad intent, then there is a strong probability that the work will not go well, or it will harm people's emotion, or it will not benefit others. So character is first, then intention, and then work, and then it will help people, and then the kind of work we do, it can serve others in some way. So it is very practical thing, sir. And I want to know about public speaking, because you are a wonderful speaker, and you are inspirational speaker. You inspire a lot of people through practical things, not just theoretical, that if you do this you will get this. And you do practical things, because trust is also important in relationship, in family, in business, in professional life, in personal life, in social life, any life. So tell me something about public speaking. Right.
Yes. I say this on the public speaking, that again, if I start with my motive,
Mm.
seek to bless, not to impress, I become aware of the needs of those who I'm speaking to. So I have empathy, understanding of needs that are out there. My motive is to bless and meet those needs, fulfill those needs. I bring it's much like what I said in writing. I also then bring my expertise to trying to help meet those needs through what I know and know well. And so I think having deep expertise matters too. That to become good at something that I know something about, that I've got insight into, because people respond to insight.
Mm.
And if we just give kind of just raw motivational things, that could maybe excite in the moment, but it will dissipate and people won't remember it when they're gone back. But instead, if I can give people some insight, a whole new way of viewing something, a whole new way of thinking about something, a paradigm shift, and then I give them principles that they can follow, that are enduring principles that can cross cultures and cross time and situations, so I can apply them. I'm not just giving a practice that's only good once in one situation, but a principle like trust, like integrity, like fairness, like generosity, like abundance, a principle of collaboration and innovation, so that you can apply this in a lot of different contexts and situations. Give people principles, and then give them opportunities to come up with ways to apply those principles.
Right.
And in different contexts, in their situation, how might you take this principle and apply it in your life? So with trust, if trust is a principle, I might challenge the audience of, think of a relationship that you have now where the trust is not where you want it to be. And again, this could be with a business colleague, but it also could be in your home with a child. And focus on building trust in that one relationship by not pointing the finger at them saying they're the problem, there's no trust, but instead looking in the mirror and saying, what can I do to build more trust with this person? How can I be more trustworthy myself? And how can I become more trusting of them? Because that's a way of helping them know that I believe in them and that I see potential in them if they believe I trust them, and it can bring the best out in them. It's very easy to say there's no trust because of you. Instead, say, how can I become the catalyst to help increase trust in this relationship, in this person? I'll go first.
Right.
That's a very practical way of saying, I want to apply trust. I don't look out the window and point the finger and blame. I look in the mirror and say, I'm going to start with me. I'll become more trustworthy. I'll
Right.
become more trusting. And I'll try to transform this relationship by going first, and so forth. And so that's the idea. And I think the more that as speakers, we can appeal to what's inside of people. So it starts by believing that they have it, and then trying to unleash it and help them see it in themselves. Then I think we're connecting with people. So, I try to always, do that. And so I try to also bring a lot of energy, excitement, and passion, because as a speaker, if I'm not excited, why will they get excited about my topic? So I bring energy, excitement, and passion to my topic. I try to connect with people by the way I'm describing, face to face, eye to eye, heart to heart, smile to smile, laugh to laugh. I try to connect with them, look into their eyes, and then connect with them person to person. I try to speak to the one, not to everyone. But by speaking to the one, I think I connect better with everyone. And then I try to tell great stories, give examples and stories, because people resonate with the story. And then I try to really be present with them in the moment. And then I do all the things of, bringing my expertise to them. I've started with their needs. I'm seeking to bless. Those are just some of the things I try to focus on in public speaking. But I will say this, every time before I get up to speak, the first thing I do before I speak is I take a deep breath, and I go back to my personal maxim, and I say to myself, Stephen, seek to bless, not to impress. It just calms my nerves, and it gets my heart right and my mind right, that I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to serve and bring my expertise to their need in a way that's valuable to them.
Right. It is very wonderful insights you have shared, Stephen sir, in regard of public speaking, and we have discussed about leadership and author, that how should author write books, considering what kind of crucial things in his mind. And we have delved into trust and inspire book as well, and your journey as well. So it was a wonderful time with you, sir. And actually, when I was 17 years old, and it is and right now I am 19, so I manifested that I will have a podcast with you, because I heard your book Speed of Trust, and a few months back I sent you email. Actually, I wrote something in your comment section of LinkedIn, right?
On
And then
LinkedIn, you wrote a comment.
right? So it is like a dream came true to me to have you on the show and to ask you such questions, because we only read such kind of things on books, and then you are live here and you have expressed everything very clearly and pinpointed the important things, that what are the crucial things which people should consider to approach success. And it is a wonderful session with you, sir. And and you have sent me your book Trust and Inspire, and hopefully I will get that book. And I would request if you could send me the book of Speed and Trust, having your signature on that, because it will be a lot of inspiration for me to become more successful, right? And I have hosted a lot of leaders like you, Ron Kaufman, and many more leaders internationally. So learning and growing is something what I'm passionate about. And because of you, your kind of authors, your kind of person actually, who is very authentic and foster positive things and practical things to help others. You seek to bless, not to impress. It is a wonderful quotation. And actually practical thing, you see, practicality is very rare to see, and theory is everywhere. So I just love you a lot, and that's what I want to say.
Ronald. Thank you, Ronald. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. I'm humbled by it and honored. Thank you. And I appreciate this chance to connect with you
Right.
and with your audience and your followers and those that are influenced by you, for whom you are trusting and inspiring. This new book, because the Speed of Trust was kind of how we build trust. The new book, Trust and Inspire, is how we lead today, the kind of leadership that's needed today. And I'm comparing Trust and Inspire as the new way to lead compared to the old way. The old way I call command and control. It's kind of the traditional, more hierarchical, top down. Maybe that worked in the past, but it doesn't work very well today in a new world of work, with remote work, hybrid work, intentionally flexible work, with all this change and disruption that's hitting us through technology. And, the pace of change, the amount of change, the type of change, disruption, generative AI, all this change is hitting us. And then with the younger generations, Gen Z, this upcoming generation Alpha, they want to be led in different ways. And so maybe command and control worked in the past, but it doesn't work very good going forward. So a new world of work requires a new way to lead. And rather than command and control, I call it trust and inspire. We model the behavior we'd like to see. We trust and are trusting of people, and we inspire them by connecting with people through caring and belonging, and then connecting people to purpose, breathing life into. We inspire, we model, we trust, we inspire. This is the kind of leadership people want today.
Right.
Authentic leaders, real leaders, leaders with humility and courage. So it's about influence, not position. And that's the kind of leadership we crave for. We respond to this kind of leadership, and it brings out the best in people. We see the potential. We're not trying to control people. We're trying to unleash people. We see the greatness inside of them. We communicate the greatness so that they come to see it in themselves. We develop it. We unleash it. We're creating more leaders. That's what Trust Inspire is all about. It's a better way to lead, not positional, but it's of influence. It's who we are more than what we do. Right. But what we do, though, is we unleash the potential, the greatness inside of people. So that's the new book, Trust and Inspire. It describes the kind of leadership needed in this new world of work. And I think it's a beautiful companion to Speed of Trust, which is all about building trust in relationships, in teams, in cultures, and then Trust and Inspire being the way that we lead in our world today. Not command and control, but trust and inspire. And it's aspirational of where we want to go. So I appreciate the chance to share this with your listeners, your viewers, of the new world of, a new way to lead, trust and inspire in a new world of work. And I hope that our listeners and viewers will find it valuable to them, both Trust, Inspire, and Speed of Trust. So thank you for this chance to connect with you, Ronald, and talk about these books. I appreciate it.
It is very humble of you, sir, that you are thanking me. Actually, I am blessed to host you here. And a lot of viewers are watching here. A lot of aspiring leaders are here. So I have request to everybody that I have add all those links in the description of Trust and Inspire, and there's all 3-4 books, Spirit of Trust. You must visit on website, and visit and watch his videos on YouTube, and actually you should buy his book as well, because it is full of practicality. And if you have seen the entire podcast, then you must be very intrigued to buy that book, and I'm going to read that book too. So Stephen, sir, it is a wonderful I had time with you, I would say tonight, because I'm in India, so it is night here. So my sleep will be very positive today, because I have the last thing that we do at night runs in the mind till the morning, right? So it is a wonderful time with you, and thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ronald. And I'll make sure you get both the books. I'll sign them both and get them to you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
sure.
my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. Goodbye.